Hi, it's Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my studio. Now today, early this morning, just before sunrise, about 6:15 to 6:30, I went out to a location where I was going to do a on-location plein air painting. And I had everything ready to go, I had it all set up, and it started to sprinkle. So I said, well, instead of getting all my equipment all wet and damp, I said, well, I had to, put it back in my car and bring it back here to my studio. So what I'm going to do is I've got a photograph of the scene that I'm going to do, and so I'm going to go ahead and start here in the studio. And anyway, it'll be just like I'm sitting out there looking at it. And later on, I may go back out there and take the painting with me and do some final touches outside. But right now, we'll get started in the studio. So let me take you to my painting board, and let me show you how I'm going to get started. Okay, well, there's the scene. It's a abandoned boat that's been sitting there for a long time, and I've been looking at it, trying to see if I could do a painting of it. So I decided this morning I'd go out there and take a shot at it. Well, so that's the photograph. It's a very interesting shape there and so forth. It's an old boat sitting there rotting away. So, but look at all the shapes, and look at all the colors and textures and so forth. So what I did was I drew it up on my drawing pad, so I could get familiar with the contours and so forth. So this was a drawing I did of the boat, just to get a sketch of what I'm looking at. Get the shapes and learn the angles and so forth to get familiar with the subject matter. And that's always a good idea. Do a drawing or a sketch, give you an idea just how you're going to lay out your painting. So those are two steps I've done. And then I've gone ahead and I've prepared a canvas. This is a 11 by, it's 16 by 12 by 16 canvas, watercolor canvas. Now this is an old one. What I did was I wiped off the old painting on here. You can see there's still a little bit of color still stained on the canvas, but I'm going to paint over that. So you can always reuse a canvas. A nice thing about advantage of a canvas in watercolor is you can wipe it off and then start over again and do something else with it. So this is what I'm going to do here. But I go ahead and put the drawing in here on top of the canvas. And so my drawing is in here nice and dark, so I can get started on this. Now let me take you to my palette just to show you a little idea what my equipment is. Now this is my plein air palette. This is the one I was going to take with me. I had with me on location this morning. And I won't use all the colors, but I have all the colors I have in my normal palette here in the studio. And I'm going to use a large Hockey brush to do some of the larger areas, get started. And I've got a 3/4 inch flat brush watercolor, and I've got a small brush number 4 round, which is almost like a rigger, but it's got a nice point to it, and that'll be for some of the detail. And I got a water bucket over here. This is my plein air bucket. I take this with me. And of course, I always have my trusty spray bottle, my palette in a bottle dot sprayer, sold exclusively on Everett Watercolors with a white top. Palette in a bottle, dot sprayer. Okay, so that's my equipment. That's all I need: the paints and brushes and so forth. So I'm going to take you back to my painting. Let's see what I'm going to do. Let me mix up some paints here. I think what I'll start with. I'll start with the background sky, and what I'm going to do is just mix up a gray, kind of a bluish gray, so a little bit of cobalt blue, using a little bit of cobalt, and it's going to be a little dirty, but it's okay. I just want to get a color in the sky, and I might put a little bit of more blue in there. It's gonna be a light color. A little bit of burnt sienna in there just to gray it down a little bit. Now what I'll do is I'll take I did a little color testing. There's some colors I may try. I'm looking at some, some of the blues in the sky and so forth. But let me see what this looks like on paper. I might have to dull it down just a little bit more. Now this has got green in it, so I'm going to put just a touch of red in it to give me a gray. So you put the opposite color in there to turn it down. So I turned that greenish color into a gray by putting in the complement. So I put a little bit of my pyrrole red in with that greenish. So that'll give me a more grayish tone. So I'll have several colors. I'll have several colors here in the sky. That doesn't matter. I want to get a light. Now this is very wet, and I don't need to put a lot of water in it for canvas. But I'm going to go ahead. Now that's just the first wash. So I'm going to go ahead to the painting board and get started on that. Okay, here we are back at the painting board. Now what I'm going to do here is just take this color. And I'm going to put this in the sky. Maybe I'll make a little blue in there. Well, this morning it was raining, so it would have been overcast. But I could put whatever color I want in the sky I want. So I'll just start with a little bit of blue, a little bit of bluish gray. And what I think I'll do, I'll move to the bigger brush. I'm going to use the Hockey brush. Give me a larger brush stroke. So I'm just going to get some color in the sky, a little bit of blue. And there's a dark background because there's a lot of trees here, a lot of darker trees. So that's going to be my dark background behind this light. The boat's going to be light when I decide what color we're going to put on it, but let's just start with this. And then I'm going to take some of this gray with blue in it, and I'm going to come down here to the water also. Use some color here in the foreground, which is water. A little more blue up in the sky. And with that grayish, so I have a bluish gray. Okay, that's going to be my first wash, so I'm going to stop it there and let that dry. Okay, it's almost dry. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the boat now. I'll paint a different color. So let me go to my palette. And I'm going to introduce a new color. This is called lavender. Beautiful color. And the boat itself is a light color. Can't really tell it's gray and blue, and got some other colors in there. But I'm going to use lavender as a base coat of the boat. So that's what I'm going to try. So take the lavender, I've got it right out of the tube here. I'm going to squeeze out. Lavender's got a little bit of blue and a little bit of purple. It's a beautiful color. We'll start out with that. And I'm going to start with the 3/4 inch brush, with a little bit of water in it. Gotta keep the brushes clean. I don't want this to be a dirty color, so I'm going to keep it nice and wet it in there and get it nice and clean. Clean water. And I'm going to make this fairly thick. Okay, that's the color. It looks on the video. It looks a little bit bluish, but I think it'll be when it dries. It's going to be a little bit lighter. So let me start with. I'm going to start with that color, lavender, and let's go back to my painting board. Okay. But before I do that, let's test the color here on a piece of paper. So that's the color it's going to be. It's almost a blue, but it's going to have a light color to it. I think I'll add a little more water to it. So I'm going to start here and just coat the whole surface. So I'm giving the boat a special color. I'm going back and forth on the canvas to make sure that paint gets into the canvas fiber. Don't want to do too many brush strokes on it, because what happens on the second stroke, it starts to pick up the paint. So you have to learn how to work with canvas. You go in, you get the color on, then you leave it alone, let it dry. So on the screen it looks a little bluish, and it might be because of the video, of the lighting on it and so forth. But it's a lavender color, which has got blue in it, but it's also got a little bit of red. So it's like a purple, a light purple, lavender. Make sure I cover all the surface. So I'll be coming back with a darker color around the edges to define the edge. I'm double checking the edges. I'm going to make sure I got a nice coat of paint around all the edges. The edges are the most important part of a subject. You want to make sure the edges are defined, that you want to show. Now what I'm going to do now is wash out the brush. Take out the brush. I'm going to go in and just go over, pull off any excess paint. And I gotta let this dry. And on canvas, the color it won't change that much when it dries. It'll change a little bit, but it doesn't lighten up as much as it does on watercolor paper. So canvas, usually when you put it down, it's gonna be pretty close to the color that you put on there, okay? So I'm gonna make that's the color it is. So we'll let that dry, and we'll come back and put up some more detail. Okay, what I did at this stage now, I made a little modification. I added some Chinese white layer on top of the lavender to kind of lighten it up. I thought the lavender was a little bit darker than I wanted, so I just took Chinese white, put a layer on top of the lavender, and then I took a paper towel, and then as it started to dry, then I just went and did a little bit of tapping on there with a paper towel to give me a little bit of texture look. So I got a little variation here in the color, and I think it gave it the right value I wanted, and also gave me a little bit of the background showing through, which is the old painting that was on there. So I think it looks okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to my palette, and I'm going to mix up a dark color to go around the background. So let's go to my palette and we'll take a look at that. So what I'm going to do is mix up a dark color, and there's my dot spray bottle. I'll come here and get a little bit of blue and some green, a little bit of brown from cool. Here, dark green. There's some dark green trees here in the background, so I'm going to use the Hooker's green or ultramarine blue. Pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. So let's see how this goes. I'm going to take this now, I'm going to go in, I'm going to build in some trees in the background around this old deserted boat. So these are the evergreen trees. Most of them are evergreen trees. They're green. A dark background which will show off the lighter color of the boat. Coming around the edge here, I'm going to work around the edges. The edges are the most important part. So let me put you on the painting board so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm starting over here on the right hand side with the dark green, and there's trees in the background. We'll add some more, I'm adding more green, a little more blue, ultramarine blue on top of that mixture. Get nice and dark. And using the 3/4 inch flat brush, using the edges to control the shape. Pick up some more ultramarine blue, get it darker. Payne's gray, or excuse me, Hooker's green, a little bit of burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, ultramarine deep. Making sure I got a variety of edges here for the background trees. Keep it interesting. A little more blue. Burnt sienna. Hooker's green. So the dark background will show off the lighter color of the boat. That's my whole intention here. With canvas, you don't. I got some water in it just so I can spread the paint around, but you really don't need a lot of water in the paintbrush because it. Use a little thicker paint with canvas, thicker than you do on paper. And I'll come down around the edges of the boat here, and we'll be careful to get the nice crisp shape here. I'm following my drawing. Keep loading that palette with fresh paint. I'll vary the brush strokes a little bit. Get a little texture, oh, a little bit of texture in the background of those trees. Varying the brush stroke. And I'm going to come in here now, a little more dark, ultramarine blue. Around the cabin here. It's in perspective because it's going back. There's a little carefully doing around the edges of the shapes here. A little rounded section up here on the structure. Okay, I'll put some more ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, make it nice and dark. A little bit of pains, a little bit of Hooker's green. I'll go in and lay in some more color on top of this. To paint a little thicker, a little darker. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry a little bit, okay? Okay, I'm going to look at the foreground here. As you see here, the water. A little bit of water here at the bottom here and a shadow underneath there, so I'm going to work a little bit on the foreground. So what I'm going to do is take my Hake brush and fill it up with paint, and I'm going to put that across here in the water. Leave some of the waves in there. Right up underneath the boat, the bottom. I'll let that a little dry a little bit, and I'll go in and put another darker layer. So that's the first coat of the water at the bottom. I'll let that dry. Okay, I'm going to look at the palette again. See, I got dark mixture of green and blue, and I'm going to use the hockey brush, pick up some of that darker paint. I'll go back now to the close-up camera, and I'm going to put in a darker layer up here. Then come down and put in some the movement of the water, just a little pattern down here. Okay, I'll let that dry. Okay, now I'm going to put in some of the details on the boat, some of the windows and so forth. So let me go to my palette. I mixed up a little bit of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, maybe almost a black with a dark color here. And I've got a number 8 round I'm going to use for the windows. So let me go over and get started. So I'm going to use, you can see the windows here. I have there's some windows here on the boat, so I'm going to go ahead and put those in. There's a lot of these a doorway up here. There's a hatch is open here. There's a hatch here. It's door open. There's a hatch here. So there's doorways here also. So what I'll do here is I'll take a smaller brush and I'll define there's a doorway open here. There's a ladder here. I'm going to put the ladder in. There. There's a. I'll mix up a little bit of red here, a little bit of pyro red. There's a little light preserver here, still intact. I'll put that on. That's kind of interesting. Right there. Okay. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. We'll go back and put some more details in. Okay, I'm gonna add a little bit of shadow to this now. The sun's coming from right to left, so this side is open, but the back side of the cabin, for example, here will be a little darker in shadow. This section here is in shadow. This part here is in shadow. And the back side, this is another part of the back part of the cabin here is in shadow. And this whole this is the stern, is in shadow. This is out of light. That'll be in shadow. Okay, that gives a little bit of dimension, to the structure. I'll put just a little more The more paint there, I get just a little bit darker just to emphasize that edge. Give a little dimension. Okay, and we'll let that dry. Okay, we'll take it back to the palette. I mixed up another color for the some of the detail. Here I've got a number 4 round, which is almost like a rigger, but it's very small. Then I've got the yellow orange. I've got the burnt sienna and some pio red. Those are the colors I'm going to use for the rust areas on the edge of the boat. So that's what I'm going to use, a combination. Let's go back to the close-up camera. Okay, so I'm going to load the brush and start putting in some of the darker color, some of the details. So there's a strip across here. I'm going to use now. This is where the orange and the blue so I'm using a combination of the yellow orange, burnt sienna, and pyrrole red. Give me a nice rusty edge along this part of the trim. It's not a trim. It's just a border. It's the edge of the deck over here, but it's all rusty along the connecting parts. So I'm trying to emphasize that. So this boat has been in the water for a long time, and it's I guess eventually it's going to be salvaged somehow, but it's been sitting here for a long time. And I finally decided to paint it just to have a new item to capture. So I'm pushing the color a little bit because I want to just have a little bit of nice color in my painting. So I'm using this this part here. There's one behind in the stern here. There's a strip across here. It's rusty edge. So the reason I chose the lavender was it has a blue in it, and when I put the blue and orange together, they're contrasting colors, and it gives me a little more artistic license here. And I use those colors, I think, to bring out more color of this particular object. I guess I'll go up there. Yeah. I'll put another edge in here. It says 2 also. This part down here is really rusty down here. This section on the bottom. So the photograph and everything is not exactly the colors I'm using here. I'm just using the colors I like to use to give me a little more design, a little more contrast. A little more interest. That color down here in the water, which is the bottom part of the boat. Okay, well, I think there's a little edge up along here also at the top. Okay, use a little more of this gray and black mix I have and come on, put some more marks around here. So I'm adding a little bit of that darker color to some of this trim. Open these doors up a little bit. Define those doors. Hatchways. open this open doorway here. Windows I can define a little bit more. That one's closed or half open. This one's half open. This one's open all the way. A couple closed windows up here. Okay, there's a lot of detail there. Okay, all right. I've got one more little thing I want to add on. So let me let this. I think what I can do also is put a little bit of dark back here. Just a little bit of rust and grime back here at the stern. I can put that in. Indicate that it's an old boat. Okay. All right, we've got one more step to do, but let me let this dry, and I'll go back in and do one more step. Okay, there's my palette. What I'm going to do now, I've got number 4 and number 6 round. This is going to be used. Now I'm going to add. This is white gouache. Over here, I just put it as a brand new, and there's very little water, and I'm going to almost use pure gouache on here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the antennas. There's a lot of antennas here and poles and so forth. So those are the last things I'm going to add on. A little more interest around the edges. Okay. So I'm adding in the poles. So let's go back to the painting. Okay, it's pretty well dry now. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and just wet the brush damp, and then load it up with the gouache. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the antennae. And see, there's one up here. Above this, there's a large. All these boats have antennas, communication, radios, radars. But these are old. This is old style. This is an old boat. So it's. But this will give a little more character to this. So this is there's a tall one here. So it's number 4 round. Does a good job just to get those nice stone lines in there. Let's see, there's another one on the other side. I can put that in. There's a little one on the other side. Not quite, it's on the other side of the cabin. Put that in there. Then there's a ladder that runs up here. It's got a guardrail, a gold rail around this ladder, so I'll put that on. And it goes around the other side. Move the brush again. So I'm just picking little things out here. Here's some more antennas or rods sticking up. Put those in there. Give a little interest. And there's one back here alongside of this structure. There's one alongside the edge of the ladder. On the side. There's some poles down here. Now there's a large stack here. I think this is probably an exhaust stack, and it's black. I'm going to put it in white. This tall stack right here is the stack. It's like an exhaust pipe. So I'm just going to put that in white, just because I've got a dark background. Let's see. There. Okay. These little portholes here have got a little white right around it, so I'll put that in. Again, I'm going to try to put a little more detail here, just for interest. These portholes have a little bit of white around them. Okay, let's see. These doorways have got a little bit of white on the inside, so we'll do that. These are open doors, so that'll define those a little better. These are open hatches. I think that's one more at the top. One more over here. Little hatch over there. Okay. Yeah, I think that's enough to show that off. Okay. All right. So those were the added detail I put on, was those antennas and that large stack over here in the back, and I've made it all white. So I'm gonna bring it up close to you. You can see that's okay. I'm gonna bring a mat board over here and put it around it just to show it off a little bit. So let's bring a mat board over and we'll put it around it. And what I'll do is I'll expand my now we'll expand my picture here, move it around. Let's see, I'll go to this close-up camera, move it over a little bit. There we go. And straighten it up. That's pretty good. Okay. All right, there's my painting of the abandoned boat. And I started out today outside, and it started to rain on me, and I came back into the studio. I said, well, I'll paint in the studio. So that concludes my painting for today, my plein air painting, which I did inside. But I did start on the outside. I did a drawing on the outside. So I did all the preparation, and I just had to come back here and put in the colors. So subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate you. Give me a thumbs up, and if you subscribe, you'll be notified of my next video. So I'll see you on the next video.